Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm the Auto Answer Man. Thank you so much for following along with this turbo any car. I'm doing a 4th gen Camaro. These same tactics will work on pretty much any vehicle. Something simple you could do at home. So this is part 2 of about a 3 or 4 part how-to journey. If you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel. I was just looking at the statistics. Not that I get a lot of views, but only roughly 3% of all viewers subscribe to the channel or like or comment. So please show me a little love if this is something you guys appreciate, and I'll be sure to try to make the videos better and better as I go along.
Alright, so laying underneath the car, here's the driver's side. Coming down, this is where I want the accordion, going over to the passenger side. So I have to make a connection between the accordion and the driver's side piece. With lots of measuring, lots of tape, lots of wiggling. This is kind of what I came up with. This is why you kind of look at this weird shape. That's why pie cuts are so important. You can't really get this out of a standard mandrel bend. I'm going to throw a few tacks on these, and we will go stick it back underneath, and hopefully it's in the correct position. To make this guy fit perfect, I think I just need to add a small 1/8 inch spacer about right here. So I'm going to work on that. Alright, this is all welded up, ready to go in and not necessarily be a test fit, but I got kind of a final install. I got the gaskets, everything, so hopefully everything still lines up. It should, but when you're welding, things are getting hot, things are moving. Hopefully it doesn't affect it at all. So I'm going to go ahead and install this piece here and see where we're at. Alright, let's take a look. It's been all welded up and installed. I like that it doesn't hang. If you look, it's pretty much level with the chassis or the frame rail. So all installed, welded fully. And our fancy pie cut, bam, fits perfect. Everything's tucked up in there nice. I'm really happy how this came out. So now we're gonna put that mesh piece there and continue on to 3 inch back to the turbo.
Hi guys, so it's been a few months since I last did any work on this recording. So since that last scene, there has been a few month period just because the holidays and with work and stuff. I've been traveling a lot for work, so I have to try to find time to obviously do these videos and work on the car. I've completed the front half, basically the engine to about midway on the car, the 2.5 inch merged into the single 3 inch. Now I gotta start removing the rest of the exhaust and the turbo. This isn't your typical rear mount turbo like I told you guys. You look under the car, there's no turbo. You can see the wastegate, some plumbing and stuff, but my turbo's hidden, old California. So if you remove where your spare tire is, so there's actually a good amount of room. I mean, that's a very big turbo. That's a GT45 frame 80mm turbo. So fairly big turbo. Air filter fits in there nice. And with this NACA duct cut into the side, it's unbelievable how much air those produce. The way they're engineered, pulling a ton of air. And you know, this isn't sealed around the filter. The filter actually could draw air from inside the cab. I do put a firewall, which I already had removed. I was just trying to show you guys quickly, you know, where I had the turbo. So this firewall, which I'll probably make better, but that goes over the turbo, so it keeps the heat out of the cab with me and any fumes and that kind of stuff. So it kind of seals up on there. So I'm going to remove this turbo right now, the oil lines, that kind of stuff. Then I'll be able to remove the rest of the exhaust. And then we'll continue from the front building back. So, intake, exhaust, old turbo. This is a VS Racing. You know, I've been happy with it. It's not, you know, that's one of these Chinese choo-choo turbos. Guys make huge power, win a ton of races with them. But it's 80 mil, and it's just too big. You can see the difference in the two. Kinda, shoot. The other one looks almost nearly as big, but Comp Turbo's technology is second to none. Honestly, they're pretty cutting edge. These are both ball bearing turbos. You can see how nice this spins. This isn't broken in yet. This has never ran, so you wait till you get some miles on them. This one's got a lot of miles on, and this is also a ball bearing turbo. That turbo probably has 10,000 miles on it. So it's broken in. Not a lot of racing, honestly, with it. It was just a daily driver. So kind of, you see the difference in the bearings. You can imagine once this Comp turbo is broken in, it's going to spin like butter. This turbo was good for, I think it was rated, it's a 80, 83, and it was rated for 1,200 horsepower. This turbo here is a 78, 75, and it's rated for 1,350 horsepower. This turbo, though, is going to go on Sierra, my girlfriend's GMC Sierra. So she has a 5.3, we're getting a cam, all those goodies, and this turbo, it'll be front mounted right off the header. I think it'll be plenty of steam for you know, about 600 horse in that thing, and it should do pretty good. If not, I'll contact Dan over at Comp. They have some special turbos they make for the smaller LS motors, the 5.3s and that kind of stuff, which will be nearly zero lag and you know, make all the power you want. I mean, all their turbos, even their small ones, have the capability of making so much power because they could spin their turbine so fast. You can see all the billet center section of this. I mean, they just put a ton of technology into these turbos. People look at them and they think, oh, it's such a small turbo. They don't realize that single turbo could be good for 1,500 horsepower. And they look at the small turbo and think it's not as powerful because maybe they've seen a Precision or a VS that's way bigger, and they know what kind of specs those are. So never count out Comp turbos. Bang for your buck. I think you can't go wrong with them. That's pure frustration right there. I had a leak. It was in a tight spot. Didn't know how to weld, so I just keep blasting it. Not all the welds are that terrible. Just the I found that pretty funny though. Obviously didn't know what I'm doing. As you guys have seen now. I'm quite a bit better at welding. Like a TIG weld, and all this will be TIG welded stainless. So, you know, this is where I started. This is where I decided to start learning. Looking at those old welds, it's, I think it's pretty funny. People will probably comment like, I can't believe you would do that and run your car like that. It might have been ugly, but it wasn't leaking because obviously it's got an inch thick worth of weld packed on top of it. I drove this car like that for like 6 years, a couple different turbos. I didn't have to change any of that piping. I just swapped the turbo out. And it might not look pretty, it might be kind of embarrassing, but you have a lot of fun. Go out and race and tear it up with just, you know, the little bit of experience. You know, grab a welder and just go for it. You know, I'm not ashamed of it. I feel like that's shows my progression. This is where I started compared to where I am now. And obviously, since I'm better at welding, that's why I'm redoing this kit. All right, so I got everything cleaned out in the back. I kind of cleaned it up in there. I know it's hard to see, it's not good lighting. Pulled out a lot of the old heat protective stuff. With the comp turbo, I'm also running one of their turbo blankets. So this should help a lot with any excess heat inside there. I don't want to burn up the car, but also don't want to you know, be burning up the outside of the car. I know it's kind of double walled and layered, but it you know, I don't know how much heat will actually build up in there, so I just want to be careful with that. So got the car all the way in the air. I'm gonna pull off the front section. I gotta weld the O2 bung in there, and this guy. Now you can tell this one's for boost. You see how it's kind of corrugated on the inside in there? So this one can take pressures. So I'm gonna put this on, then the V-band. So I gotta put all that on that front section, then off the other side of the V-band, I can start building the 3-inch. Okay, so I pulled off the front section that you guys saw me make earlier. I'm adding the V-band and the accordion. I'm not really sure the technical name of these things. They're just like flex sections. So adding that to the pipe, I looked it all over because I ran the car and actually drove around the block with just this piping. I wanted to make sure that, you know, there's no leaks or any warpage or anything with the heat, to make sure, you know, it was all good. So it all looks pretty nice. So I'm gonna weld this up. This is kind of some funky stuff though, with this mesh kind of sticking out. I don't know how you can see that, but it makes it difficult to weld. You got to cram a lot of filler rod in there. Then I'm going to put V-band on this side. All right, so this front section is complete. We have the flex section of flex pipe and the V-band. So I'm gonna connect on and move straight back with 3-inch from that up over the axle and into the turbo. So you can see you have the 2.5 into the flex pipe. I put a V-band and I'm working on, this is the factory mount for the exhaust to hang off of, right off the back of the transmission. So I'm going to use some stainless rod I have and use that existing mount. Then it merges into with a handful of pie cuts. There's 3 7-degree pie cuts and 2 15-degree pie cuts to make that transition. Then we're heading back to the rear of the vehicle. I've cut a small section of this rod. I just have to bend it kind of like an L shape. So half of it will go into the factory mount, the other half will weld onto the top of the exhaust pipe. So I think this is pretty hard to get it lined up. I know it's at a little bit of an angle like that, but it seems that seems like that might be how it needs to be. I think that the mount's at a little bit of an angle or something, or my eyes are at an angle, one of the two, so we'll see how this fits. So I know there's a little bit of background noise, but I have Sierra working on making some more pie cuts for me. Since I do have an abrasion saw, there's a little bit of a post-processing on these things to make them clean and ready to weld. So she's handling all that for me while I'm mocking up the pie cuts for the first transition to start heading up over the axle. Once I get to that center point, kind of above the axle, that's always kind of a hard part for moving exhaust in and out of there. I'm going to put another V down there so it's easy for removal and installing it. Just in case I need to service it, sometime down the line I might plan on doing a titanium wrap on the whole exhaust system, so it's going to be really nice if I have those V-bands in strategic areas for removal and install. I did that. All right, so this is correct. Connecting direct to the merge just after the flex coupler. I had to change up the mount. Hanging off the side here, it was allowing the exhaust system to kind of twist and wasn't really giving it the support I was looking for. So this is actually a lot easier way. Once this is all fully welded, it'll be plenty strong. Going back next to the drive shaft, and then turning and going up over the axle. So if you guys could look at the difference between the old and the new, you can see some of the welds. And believe it or not, I didn't even do these welds. This is an exhaust shop. But this was my frustration weld. And then going back to the wastegate and turbo. But you can see things are much smoother transitions. Going to make a huge difference on the flow and velocity of the air. Nothing really to slow it down. So I'm going to give this a test fit and we'll see how it looks. So it comes all the way back. We have clearance. I know it's probably hard to see, but next to the drive shaft and the floorboard all the way down right into the 2.5-inch merge. Actually came out really nice. We shouldn't have an issue with the rear end hitting it. Again, this will all be just on a little bit of a rubber bushing for vibration, but that's why I put this flex joint in there, because I don't want it moving, because the turbo is connecting direct to this. So it's gonna have basically a small rubber dampener for cushion. Other than that, this exhaust here should not move. The stuff in front of it obviously will rock and bounce around with the movement of the engine. So we got up over the axle, not mounted yet, but there is clearance. A lot of that stuff, or that stuff doesn't move. So as long as there's clearance and being back on the turbo, a lot of this will be solid mounted. So with that, that is the end of part 2, coming to conclusion. Basically, I have built an entire exhaust system coming back to where the turbo would be mounted, or where a muffler would be mounted, but I'm replacing my muffler with a turbo. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions on the build, pipe sizes, specs, where I'm getting my material, amperage on the welder when I'm welding, anything along those lines, please feel free to ask me down in the comments below. I'll respond to all the comments. And I hope you guys are following me along this journey, because part 3 is coming right at you.